All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we look at the biggest draft busts in 49er draft history. It's not scientific, but we'll go through and pick our favorite. All right, we are brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. My good friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. And great news for Krug Show subscribers. Our sponsor, LearnKey Upskill Academy, is offering a free cybersecurity course valued at just $99. The course, titled Protecting Yourself and Your Organization, is just 1 hour long and will give you essential tips to keep you and your company safe online. This is a limited time offer, so don't miss out. Click the link in the description on this video to claim your free course and start learning today at upskill.learnkey.com. And also thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring our NFL draft contest. That's right. Man, if you're an NFL draft fan, you're not going to want to miss out on this at all. We have a brand new NFL draft contest. That's right, an NFL draft contest. All you got to do while you're leveling up your career with LearnKey's Upskill Academy, why not test your football brain as well? We're teaming up with LearnKey for a special April draft selection challenge where you can predict the top 12 picks in the 2025 NFL draft for a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. It's totally free to enter. Just fill out the Google form linked in the description below with your predictions of picks 1 through 12 in the upcoming NFL draft. Entries will be graded based on how many correct player to pick matches you get. First place wins a $100 Visa gift card. Second place wins a $50 Visa gift card. Plus, both winners will get to come on the Krug Show during draft weekend. So hit the link, lock in your draft board, and let's see who really knows their draft. Good luck, and big thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring the show and, of course, this contest as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about draft busts. You know, it's like you can kind of cut the 49ers era from pre-1981 and post-1981. Before 1981, the 49ers were, a franchise that won a little bit, but, struggled for the most part. After 1981, they were a totally different team. They were an iconic team, soon thereafter a dynasty. So, and a lot of people started following the 49ers in 1981. Their first championship year. So let's just take it from there. We won't go into the 70s. We'll look from 81 on as far as the biggest draft bust in the history of the 49ers. All right. Well, 81, their first draft choice was Ronnie Lott. Obviously, he became a Hall of Famer. In 82, their first round draft choice was nobody. They drafted Bubba Paris in the second round. And Bubba became a very good player. Roger Craig was the Niners' first draft pick in the 83 draft, also coming in the second round. So I would say the first draft bust we have since the Niners, entered the Super Bowl era in 81 was Todd Shell in 1984, taken out of BYU, only 24th pick in round one, only wound up playing 38 NFL games. So didn't play a lot, had some injuries, and was just a little bit fragile. So Todd Shell was the Niners' number one pick in 1984. He obviously was not one of their better picks. 85 was Rice. 86 was Larry Roberts. 87 was Harris Barton and Terrence Flagler. Flagler, you could say, was a pretty big of a bust. So was Jeff Briegel, who was also a second-round pick in that 87 draft. The Niners' first pick in the 88 draft was Danny Stubbs. He wound up playing a very short time in the NFL. 134 total games in the NFL, but he didn't do tons. He had 51 and a half career sacks, which is even more than I thought. Keith DeLong in 1989 was kind of a bust. He was taken in the first round as a linebacker out of Tennessee. He wound up playing 64 games in the NFL total in his career, but he never really ever amounted to much considering he was a first-round draft choice. I would say Dexter Carter was definitely a first-round bust in 1990. The Niners felt like they didn't need anything. They had won back-to-back Super Bowls, and so they went with Dexter Carter, kind of a little bit of a return man, slot back, tiny little running back out of Florida State. And they just felt like they didn't have any needs. Oh, we have no needs. We'll just take a tiny little return guy. And he never wound up ever really being a good player for the 49ers. I mean, he was okay, but he wasn't great. Ted Washington was the Niners' first-round pick in 91. He actually was a good player in Buffalo after he left the Niners, but with the Niners, he never really fulfilled his potential. I would say a high and a guy who was definitely near the top of the list of draft busts there for a while was 1992 Dana Hall, drafted to replace Ronnie Lott, and it just never happened. He played 91 career games. He just never, I mean, there's only one Ronnie Lott. And this guy was big and athletic and fast and physical, but he wasn't Ronnie Lott, and he wasn't anything close to Ronnie Lott. And obviously that comparison really hurt Dana Hall quite a bit. 1993, the Niners had 2 number 1 picks, and they used the first one on Dana Stubblefield, who became a defensive player of the year in the league. And their second number 1 pick was used on Todd Kelly, an undersized edge rusher from the University of Tennessee that wound up with, I think played in 45 career games, and I think he wound up with 5.5 career sacks. So Todd Kelly, definitely a bust. And you could say Adrian Hardy, their second-round pick that year, was a bust as well. He did very, very little after being the 48th pick overall. All right, 94 was a great draft, bar none, and Bryant Young, and they won the Super Bowl that year. That was the last time the 49ers won the Super Bowl. 95, I would say, is, I know J.J. Stokes had a decent NFL career. He played 118 NFL games. He scored 30 NFL touchdowns. But the Niners traded up to the 10th pick in the draft to get this guy to UCLA. And a lot of people thought J.J. was going to be an amazing recreation of Jerry Rice 10 years later. And he was just nowhere close to that. So I would say J.J. was a bust, considering what the expectations were. Now we're getting into the real bust territory. 1996, the Niners drafted Israel Ifeani out of USC, and he had a serious injury in camp, and he just never made it in the NFL. In fact, he only played 3 total games in the NFL, and they took him with a second-round pick in the 96 draft. So I would say Israel Ifeani would probably be at the top of the list as far as draft busts. 1997, the Niners took Jim Druckenmiller, 26th overall. He only played 6 NFL games. He had 1 career touchdown and 4 career interceptions. That obviously was a bust of a pick. Okay, so that was 97. 98, they took R.W. McQuarters, who became decent after he left the Niners. 99, the Niners started their draft with Reggie McGrew and Chike O'Keefer, and neither guy really did much. O'Keefer played 150 NFL games. Reggie McGrew played 24 NFL games and had 1 career sack as a defensive tackle. He had knee problems. The Niners obviously weren't aware of those, and he was a huge bust in the 99 draft. If you go into the 2000 draft, the 49ers took Gio Carmazzi in the 3rd round, looking for their future NFL quarterback. In the same draft that included Tom Brady, the Niners took Gio Carmazzi in round 3 and Tim Rattay in round 7. Brady went in round 6, and he was at their local pro day, and they didn't notice him. I would say drafting Gio Carmazzi and having Bill Walsh state that he was the best quarterback in that particular 2000 draft definitely has to be one of the biggest busts in 49er history, without a doubt. That really stands out. 2002, Niners drafted Mike Rumph in the 1st round out of Miami, and he just never had the speed to play the corner, never really was a good fit at safety or at corner. Played 43 NFL games and kind of did very, very little. That was a bust. 2003, the Niners really had a bust. Quaim Harris, drafted with the 26th pick in the 1st round. He played 86 NFL games in his career and just didn't do a whole lot. I mean, that was one of the worst picks ever. The next year, the Niners had another bust with Rashawn Woods, taken with the 31st pick overall. Played 14 NFL games, wound up with 1 NFL touchdown. One. That's amazing. One touchdown for a first-round draft choice for Sean Woods. I definitely would say Alex Smith is one of the bigger busts. I mean, you could have had Aaron Rodgers, and you took Alex Smith. So, I mean, Alex Smith went on and had a decent NFL career, but by comparison to Rodgers, he's a clear bust in that 2005 draft. 2006 brought Vernon Davis and Manny Lawson. 2007 brought Patrick Willis and Joe Staley. Those are good drafts. 2008, the Niners really blew this draft. Round one, they went with Kentwan Balmer with the 29th pick overall. He wound up his career with no sacks. He played in 46 career games. With the second round pick, the Niners took Shiloh Rashal. And I think they took him one pick ahead of Deshaun Jackson. And Shiloh Rashal did nothing in the NFL. 64 total NFL games, never did anything. So their first and second round pick in 2008, Kentwan Balmer and Shiloh Rashal. 2009, huge draft bust was Glenn Coffey in the third round. He ran upright. He didn't have the body to take hits. He was short. His career was short-lived due to injuries. And that really stood out. 2010, the Niners had a great draft. Anthony Davis, Mike Iupati, Navarro Bowman, Anthony Boobie Dixon. They had a pretty good draft, except they took Taylor Mays out of USC in the second round, a safety who looked the part, and he had great straight line speed. He had no quickness at all. He wound up with one career sack. He played in 80 career games. He never did anything. Taylor Mays, huge bust for the 49ers out of the second round. 2011, I mean, the Niners went Aldon Smith, Colin Kaepernick, Chris Culliver. There were some character issues with Aldon Smith and Chris Culliver, but all the three of those guys could play well enough. 2012, the Niners, I mean, this was a year where the 49ers, were thinking of themselves as, they were still building towards a Super Bowl. This during the Harbaugh era. And then round one, the Niners went A.J. Jenkins. And A.J. Jenkins played 28 games in the NFL. He never scored a single touchdown. How about that? He was a total bust. 30th pick overall in round one. Niners came back in round two with LaMichael James, who's probably, famous for fumbling in the Super Bowl. Another guy who had no touchdowns. He had no rushing touchdowns. He had no receiving touchdowns. So that's what you got out of the 2012 draft, back-to-back round one. A.J. Jenkins and LaMichael James. Man, that is really, really bad. The next year wasn't a whole lot better. 2013, Eric Reid was a good player at first, but he wound up only playing 33 or 99 NFL games because of concussions. Their second round pick was Tank Carradine, never made it, never did anything. Their second round pick, they had two second round picks. Their second round pick was Vance McDonald. I mean, that's just terrible. He couldn't catch a cold. 101 NFL games before he bounced out of the league. Their third round pick was Corey Lemonnier. Their fourth round pick was Quentin Patton. Their fifth round pick was Marcus Lattimore, coming off of a devastating knee injury. I mean, they literally got nothing out of that draft. I mean, nothing. And Eric Reid is all they got out of that draft, and they had a bunch of guys. Marcus Cooper was a decent corner, drafted 252, but he somehow got away and waivers, and I think went to Kansas City. So, I mean, that 2013 draft was just a train wreck, which is amazing because they went to the Super Bowl that year. So 2014, they took Jimmy Ward in round one. Carlos Hyde's one of the biggest busts of all time in round two. And then Marcus Martin in round three. They also took Chris Borland, who was a really good player, but he bounced out of the league in a short amount of time because of concussions. But Marcus Martin, the USC guard, was a total nothing. Carlos Hyde never became anything, really. I mean, Carlos Hyde, 37 career touchdowns, but he just never was much for the Niners. Jimmy Ward obviously became a good player, but, man, Carlos Hyde and Marcus Martin were not good players in 14. In 2015, the Niners took Eli Harold in the third round. I think that was a pretty bad pick for sure for a third-round pick. In 2016, the Niners took Joshua Garnett with the 28th pick overall. This one is particularly bad because the next pick after the 29th pick was Chris Jones. Imagine the Niners had taken DeForest Buckner with the 7th pick. Imagine if in the same draft, if they had gone Chris Jones and DeForest Buckner in back-to-back picks. I mean, that would have been a draft, but instead they get Buckner and they draft Joshua Garnett. Solomon Thomas was a huge bust, and so was Reuben Foster in 2017. CJ Beathard was a third-round bust that year as well. Next year, Dante Pettis in round 2 was a colossal bust. I mean, what's he done in the NFL? Very little. Jalen Hurd was a significant bust in the third round of 2019's draft. Javon Kinlaw was somewhat of a bust in 2020 in the first round of that draft. Probably the biggest draft bust, though, in Niner history is probably Trey Lance. Just when you factor in, he didn't do anything. I mean, he barely played. Eventually got traded for a 4th-round pick. You used 3 number 1s to get up in that draft, so that's a lot of draft capital right there. That Trey Sermon was also a bust that year with the third round pick. Ambry Thomas was also a bust that year with a 3rd round pick. But Trey Lance, first pick overall in the 2021 draft. The 2022 draft, how bad is this? Drake Jackson, Ty Davis Price, Danny Gray, round 2, round 3, round 3. You had 3 picks. You didn't have a first-round pick, but you had 3 picks on day 2, and you used them on Drake Jackson, TDP, and Danny Gray. That's bad. 2023, using a 3rd-round pick on Jake Moody. Obviously a really, really bad pick. Using a 3rd-round pick on Cam Latu. That's a really, really bad pick. So, I mean, I would say Trey Lance is the biggest bust in Niners draft history. If I had to say what was the second, I'd probably say Gio Carmazzi, just because he was supposed to be their quarterback of the future. And then after that, I would probably go with Reuben Foster. I mean, Reuben Foster was granted he was a late 1st-round pick, but he just did very little. He had problems off the field. He did very, very little. So there you go. The biggest draft bust in NFL in 49ers history, Trey Lance. I don't think there's any question about that. All right, thanks to LearnKey for being a sponsor of today's video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.